They said his hands were too weak. They said his best years were behind him. But the old sculptor simply smiled, picked up his chisel and whispered, "Faith can carve what strength cannot." In a quiet village, there lived an old sculptor named Elias. For decades, he had carved stones into art that decorated the town's fountain, the church, and even the square where children played. His work was admired, but never celebrated. People passed by, nodded, and forgot. Now Elias was nearly 70, his back bent from years of labor. His hair had turned silver, and his hands, once steady as steel, trembled with age. Yet his heart burned with a dream he had carried all his life, to create one final masterpiece. Not just another statue, but something so beautiful, so eternal, that generations would remember him by. His neighbors thought it was foolish. "Rest, Elias," they said. "Your time has passed. Let the younger men carve." But Elias couldn't. He had lived his entire life shaping stones, but now he wanted to shape legacy. He chose a massive block of marble, one so heavy it took 6 men to move it into his workshop. Day after day, Elias worked. The cold wind seeped through the cracks of his little studio, but he pressed on. His hands blistered, his back ached, and some days the tremors made him drop his chisel. Still, every morning he returned. Chisel, hammer, strike, strike, strike. But weeks turned into months, and the statue refused to emerge. Neighbors whispered, "He's wasting his last years on a dream too big for him." His own body betrayed him. Sometimes his vision blurred, sometimes his chest tightened. And yet, he persisted. One winter evening, after hours of chiseling, he collapsed by the marble. For the first time, he wept. His tears touched the cold stone as he prayed, "God, if you gave me this dream, give me the strength to finish it." The next morning, Elias rose with a strange calmness. His hands still trembled, but his faith was unshaken. He realized something. Maybe the masterpiece was not about speed, not about perfection, but about persistence itself. He began to work differently, slowly, intentionally. Every stroke of the chisel became a prayer. Every crack in the marble a reminder of his own frailty. Months later, the block began to reveal the figure of a man kneeling, arms lifted toward the heavens. The villagers who once mocked him began to gather outside his workshop. They saw not just a statue, but the old man's faith carved into stone. When it was finally unveiled, the village fell silent. The masterpiece wasn't flawless. The lines were rough, the figure not perfectly symmetrical, but somehow it was breathtaking. It carried soul, it carried pain, it carried persistence. Tears streamed down the faces of those who once doubted him. They realized they weren't just looking at marble. They were looking at Elias's life itself. Every setback, every scar, every prayer, every ounce of faith, frozen forever in stone. Elias died a few years later, but his statue remained in the village square, becoming a symbol of hope. Children touched its base, lovers carved their initials beside it, and weary travelers rested in its shadow. The villagers would say, "This is the old sculptor's masterpiece," proof that persistence and faith can outlast weakness, age, and even death. And maybe that's the lesson for us too. Your masterpiece may not look perfect, it may take longer than you dreamed. The world may doubt you. Even your own strength may fail. But if you persist, if you carve with faith, one day your struggle will become someone else's inspiration. So I ask you today, what masterpiece in your life are you still chiseling at? Don't give up. Keep carving, because persistence and faith will outlast everything.